2008, the American economic system as we knew it was over. September 16, 2008, massive financial institutions in the United States failed. My proposition is that in the last 5 years, America's economic state has improved, specifically the institutions of real estate and employment. Since the housing bubble collapse of 2008, the real estate system has shown much improvement. The cause of the housing bubble collapse, as said by Lawrence H. White, was an expand on exotic loan businesses. What he means is that subprime lenders, people who gave out the loans, are giving loans to people who had poor credit or people who could not afford the loans. And because they had poor credit, they had to have an adjustable mortgage rate rather than a fixed rate. And the adjustable mortgage rates during this time seemed like the better one because the interest rates at one point were as low as 1%, so they were able to afford their monthly payments. But then the adjustable mortgage rates shot up, so they couldn't afford their payments anymore, and many defaulted on their loans, and they had to, they were subject to foreclosure. And because of the many defaults, the crash, the economic collapse had some harsh effects. Home values decreased by 33% in 2011, and from the crash in 2008 till 2011, U.S. home value had fallen $6.3 trillion. By 2011, new home sales are down by 80%. Foreclosure rates increased from 1% to 4.5%. And by 2011, at least 8 million Americans were at least 1 month behind in their mortgage payments. Since 2011 to now, 2013, foreclosure rates have seen a substantial drop of 32%, and housing sales have doubled since then. And because of the bank bailout that Obama provided in 2008, many banks were able to afford to give out loans again, so they raised their interest rates and the prices of houses increased, which made it harder for people to get homes, but at least now it won't collapse like it did 5 years ago. The second institution that has shown improvement is the one in employment. The number of people out of work has decreased in the last 5 years. When the stock market fell in September of 2008, unemployment was at a rate of 6.1%. But many thousands of people lost their jobs because many of the companies were invested in stocks. And when the stocks fell, the businesses fell. And when the businesses fell, everyone lost their job who was a part of the business. And by September of 2011, unemployment had risen to 9.1%. And because of so many people were losing their jobs and unemployment was at an all-time high, many Americans ended up in poverty. From 2008 to 2012, the number of food stamp users increased by 5 million people. In 2011, 49.2 million were living below the poverty line. And because so many people were in poverty and were dependent on welfare, Obama increased the welfare budget to give people the money that they needed to survive. And after this crazy drop in 2011, business started to pick back up again in 2012, and by September the unemployment rate lowered to 7.8%, and then as of August 2013, unemployment stands at 7.3%. And also now there are less Americans living in poverty. In 2011 it was 49.2 million, and today it's 46.5 million people living in poverty. In my speech I have given you the highlights of the improvements our economy has seen in the last 5 years. The crash of 2008 and its effects have been one of the darkest days America has ever seen. Although we have not returned to the flourished state we once were in, our economy still is improving. Our economy is improving and our country continues to thrive.
All right, Jasmine, the claim is clearly stated. You previewed the contents, you signposted as you get to the points. The organizational stuff is pretty solid, although it did seem like it was a little bit backwards when you got the supporting points, almost like you'd reversed the order of the things that you were going to talk about, but it was still relatively clear. The data on home value seems a little bit awkward because you start talking about, from 2008 to 2011, the substantial drop. Now, you do have good data that suggests that the number of mortgages that are, we have fewer foreclosures and mortgage failures than we had before, although I'm not exactly sure that the health of the housing industry should be linked to the fact that we have 1/3 fewer foreclosures. If the total number of foreclosures is still relatively high to the way it was, I guess that's good that the rate of foreclosures has slowed down, but as a measure of health, I think that's a little bit more problematic. I think the better evidence that you have is the home sales and the value of those homes, and I think that you needed to develop that information a little bit more, show how the increase in home sales, for instance, has had a beneficial effect on the economy, and show that the value of the homes is also increasing, because I think that's a stronger indicator than the a decline in the number of foreclosures, as a sign. It says, it's like my temperature has gone down from 105 to 104. I feel so much better. Nobody's going to say that, but on the other hand, when you say, I was able to get up out of bed and do something today, that's, better. And that's kind of what the housing sales thing, I think, illustrates. On the issue of employment, you've got factual data here. By the way, most of this needs some sourcing. I think most of it is probably just government statistics, but you need to tell us that they're government statistics. The unemployment numbers, I'm sure that that's exactly what you're citing there. But the change in those statistics is something that you're saying is a result of improvement in the economy, and I think that there probably is some controversy on that issue, but you never really talk about what that controversy is, and so I think that it's a little bit more ambiguous than it might be otherwise. You did a pretty good job presenting. I thought you were pretty effective in talking to the audience. I see all these people packing their